It's a lot of windows.
Well, so part of my goal is, number one, to first and foremost, give you the best and most accurate information I can about your typical house and your windows and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of people out there who are trying to make money, and rightfully so, that don't necessarily know how your house works, right? So the windows, they'll come in and switch them out without even batting an eye, right? And they have all these arguments about why they should, right? And why you should. And one of my goals is to arm you with information that will help you, refute those people, because I get you're here obviously, right? Because you're interested in the windows, for good reason. No, give you a little bit of background about windows. The windows, as you see around me here, these are double hung windows, meaning like the top sash goes up and down, and the bottom sash goes up and down. It's a double unit. Most of the windows in this part of the country are that way. It's rare to find a single hung, right? A single hung would be where only the bottom opens, something like that. And to just illustrate, people will say, well, I've got single hungs in my house, and they say it all the time, and it's just because the tops have been painted shut. Right?
And that's, but I think they're probably
and that's it, and so that's what it is. But these windows, it's people don't realize that what it took for this type of window to emerge with your house. And if you know the history, just of people in general, people have been building dwellings to live in since there's been people. You got to escape from the saber-toothed tiger somehow, right? It's going to be a cave, or pretty soon they're building huts, and some simple type of structures, right? So they start making doors so they can get in and out, seal it up. And windows, obviously, rudimentary. They might stick, some kind of branch over it to begin with. As time went on, the people figured things out, right? And by Roman times, they had pretty much mastered, how to make a door or window, even if it was like a rudimentary shutter or on rudimentary hinges and things like that. But fast forward to the 1920s, where these windows come from. People came across and overseas in different places and started building, and they were trying to build for the long term, right? They were always trying to build in such a way that would they could pass something down to the next generation, for the most part. They still built huts and things like that, but everybody's working on their technique and their chops and trying to build something that's going to last. And by 1920s, they had the windows emerged with that type of mindset, so that the windows that they were making were designed to last 100 years, and they just thought that was normal, right? And so, that's the coolest thing. The windows themselves aren't complex, and one of the reasons why the windows aren't complex is because all of the complexities have been worked out of them. And that's how people do things, right? When you start figuring out, this path that you have to go down, right? You don't know what how it's going to go, but you got to go down there, so you're going to make mistakes and you're going to do unnecessary things, but as you figure it out, you eliminate those unnecessary things. And so, like with the window, this is a high quality window in its purest form, right? And it's got all the things in it that any modern window would have, right? Except it doesn't break, right? I think I think the number one thing people take for granted about a window and what it does is it just, it goes up and it goes down, right? And it's really, really hard to innovate that. It's really hard to make, to come up with a better way to make a window go up and down than this current system right here, which is as old as, civilization itself. It's like a seesaw, right? You get a balance going, and you get the same size kid on the seesaw, everything works fine, right? So that's the way the window works. You've got a pulley and a rope, and there's a weight attached on one side, and then the sash. This is the sash, the functional part of the window. It balances, and so then there's a weightlessness in there. There's no undue pressure anywhere. Everything is relaxed. Everything is like, it's just real nice. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing like under tension anywhere. There's no springs and stuff like that. Modern windows, though, okay, now fast forward a little bit. There are, the majority of the functional mechanism is plastics, right? There might be a little bit of metal, some springs in there. Some of it works on pressure and tension to keep everything in place. But and then you ask the question, well, what happened, right? Well, how come it changed? Well, in our culture, in the building boom, in the 1920s, these companies emerged that made thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of these windows, right? Millions of them, right? Just like this. And then, World War II comes, and guess what? There's still nothing wrong with these windows. So what are these window companies going to do, right? They got to keep making money, right? So they've made them too good, and now they have to, in order to keep their shareholders happy, they have to start designing ways for their, their share, to keep the money flowing in, right? So over time, they became masters at designing in planned obsolescence, and planned obsolescence works perfect in our culture, right? Because people tend to move every 7 to 10 years, right? So it's like if a window fails in 15 years, then the next homeowner's on the hook, and they're going to switch them out again. It becomes this recycled, this recurring cycle of debt. Not necessarily the people get into, interestingly enough, but the house itself. And so that's such an interesting thing, because there's trade-offs, right? The windows are somewhat cheaper a little bit and easier to obtain and stuff like that, but now you have to buy more of them, right? So people will argue, okay, well, this guy says that I have to change out my windows because these are inefficient, or something like that, so you're going to spend $500 a window, give or take, whatever. It could be $1,000, it could be $500, it could be $400, whatever, to change them all out, and it'll and you'll spend $10,000, $20,000, whatever, to get your quote-unquote energy efficiency, without realizing that what you're really doing is you're setting the corporations up not just make $500 a window, but to make $3,000 a window over time, right? And now over that time, if you have to change out your window 6 times in 100 years, which is every 15 years, that's $3,000 and $500 a piece, which is a lot better deal for the corporations than it is for the consumer. And here's another byproduct of what happens when you do that. See, the model is for a window replacement company is they subcontract out the actual ripping out and installing of the units, right? They'll take out the old and put in the new. Well, the people that they hire, they pay by the piece, right? And it's very simple to take an old one out and put a new one in. Okay, what happens every single time they do that? Okay, they interrupt and destroy just a little bit of the fabric of your home, because their interest isn't necessarily you and your home. Their interest is how many, right? And that's different. It's so. And people have to make money. You can't really blame them, right? But what has happened is, you've got this cycle of planned obsolescence, and it's forcing out the artisan, the person who would actually connect with you. You know what I'm saying? And solve your problems. Someone that comes in, it could be windows, it could be doors, it could be, you see it with siding. I saw it with, just another illustration. I saw it with siding the other day. Just a little backstory. When I was cutting my teeth as a carpenter, Mr. Usher was my boss, and he taught us how to put on siding on an addition. Right? We were doing an addition, and what he taught us to do was we made what's called a story pole. Right? And what the story pole is it's a length of material with the marks on it that tell you everywhere where that piece of siding is going to go. Like, say if your siding is 5.5 inches high, right? It overlaps 3/8 of an inch, right? Lap siding. Okay. Well, then you mark it out so that siding lays out evenly, right? You do that, and what else would we do? So you stand back, 50 feet, 100 feet with a transit level. What that is, that's the tripod with the scope on it that gets a nice level line. You can put the level line all around the house, right? And then you align that mark with, with your pattern board, your storyboard, right? And so you get the marks for your siding consistent all the way around your house. And we would pop lines, right? We would pop lines all up and down the house so that we could put the siding on the line so it's perfectly straight. And when we put it on, start putting the siding together, he taught us that we would caulk the ends of the siding so that the water wouldn't become an entry point right there. And we seal the ends, right? And then also we used hand-drive nails. We weren't allowed to use nail guns. And, we had these hot-dip galvanized nails that were, they had a twist, there was a twist shape, right? And so that when they went in, they kind of screwed in, they locked in place really nice. And that's really important. They had little heads on them. And the carpenters I worked with, this is what they were teaching me at the time, is they got, they were so good with their hammers that they could hit that nail with the final blow of their hammer so that it just barely recessed beneath the surface of the wood without leaving a hammer mark, and that was, man, that's how I cut my teeth, right? And so fast forward to now, where I see people putting new siding on houses, right? And what are they using? They're using the trim gun, right? These little itty bitty nails, right? With no twist, no shank, not even galvanized. And a year later, they're not caulking their ends or anything. A year later, they're all their siding is popping off. You know what I'm saying? And one of the reasons why is because, man, this stuff just hasn't been passed down. There's, these corporations are pushing these artisans down, out of the way, so that, authentic, true work, legitimate, it's a legitimate trade that people are doing, because as a homeowner, as a consumer, when you call somebody out, you want to be cared for, or you hope to be cared for. Some of you guys have just lost all hope because of the way contractors are, and I get it, but wouldn't it be nice, right, if there was such a person, such a contractor out there, such an artisan, that they didn't just sell you something, they didn't just sell you a job, they actually solved your problems. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference in the culture, the artisan army culture and this planned obsolescence culture. You look at, on Instagram, they've got these makers out there, and they're making these these fantastic live edge tree tables, right? Where they get the slabs, and they're so cool, and they'll like put them together, and they'll pour epoxy down it and make it look like a river, and stuff like that. And they're making these not so that they'll fail in 2 years, right? What they're making is something that can be passed down for generation to generation, because they're very proud of it. And they'll put their stamp on it, and they'll take pictures of it, and they'll take pictures of themselves with it, because you know what I'm saying? I mean, look what I've done. That's different than products that you now are only able to you buy at a home store and put on your house. I mean, they don't sell you those hot dip galvanized hand dry, and even if they did, nobody know how to put them on. You know what I'm saying? But that's the right way to put on siding. You know what I'm saying? The storyboard, hand dry. I mean, when you know how to do it, man. You can do it every bit as fast as the nail gun. And your product's better. So anyway, so that's what's going on. With the windows. At the turn of the century, we were at the pinnacle of the building industry, and these windows are the pinnacle of all windows. It's like the ideal. You know what I'm saying? This is the ideal. And what Americans are being sold, is that vinyl is the solution. Insulated glass. Insulated glass has got its value, right? I mean, it can give you some kind of value, but you know what? It fails in 15 years. And when it fails in 15 years, then you got to replace it. Then what are you going to do? You got the cycle. So, I mean, it's there's these trade-offs, and you have to really know what the trade-offs are so you can make an educated decision. And if you're educated about the decision, you make it intentionally with a notch, that's one thing. But if you just make it because you're tricked, okay, that's not fair. That's not right at all. So, anyways, that's what this is all about, and that's why I'm so happy you're here, and that I'm going to teach you about these windows. I'm going to give you all the best information I can in the short amount of time we have, because it'll fly by. 4 o'clock will come, and we'll be frustrated because we will feel like we are just getting started. So I'm going to show you, number one, I'm going to show you what I call the mechanical makeover. First and foremost work that should be done on a double hung window. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about stripping and refinishing techniques. Okay, I've got a little bit about epoxy repairs. Epoxy repairs can take the place of carpentry repairs. If you don't have the carpentry skills yet, you're still developing. That can work really good in your favor. And I've also got some glazing and glass type stuff, because I want you to know about the glazing, how it works with the wood, how to paint it, and all this kind of stuff, because this is information that has been lost, and I've worked really, really hard to regain it. So anyway, so that's what's going on right now. So I'm going to hit the button here and finish that recording, and we'll carry on.